everyone. Oops, I immediately turned that off. Here we go. My bad. Happy Wednesday. How's it going? Welcome back. Sorry I was gone last week, but we are here this week. So we can get right back to it. If those of you who are just joining in or maybe saw my post on Instagram, this is Archetype. Welcome. A Gnomon and Dell. So yeah, let's get started. I got distracted too much today by trying to drink hot chocolate and make things, so I'll try to do both at the same time and enjoy them. But if you weren't here 2 weeks ago, then I wanted to get everybody up to speed, which was we're making a dragon. So we're making a little game character. This is a project that is a personal project of mine that I'm working on. It's kind of like a stylized, low poly, isometric Hayo Kaisedo little game that I've been slowly working on. You'll see some characters that I'll pull up today to reference kind of how big this character is going to be, because he's going to be pretty big. I think he's probably going to be our largest character in the game. Is our giant three-headed dragon. So since it was fantasy-based, we kind of went through some designs last week, which you can check out on YouTube. But we kind of had inspiration of like these medieval, funny-looking dragons, which I love. So I want to try to incorporate, all these fun designs into our final one. And last week we kind of came up with this little character. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and put this up here on my other screen, because I do have 3 of them. And now we can get cooking in ZBrush. So I'll probably start with a Dynamesh like I usually do, but I'm definitely not going to go super crazy with Dynamesh because, like I said, this is a pretty low poly character. So I really just want to get basically proportions out, and then I'll focus on how to make, the low poly stuff kind of more quickly than usual. Just because we don't really need what would be considered like a high res for this game, because it's staying so low. So I'm gonna make one face in low poly, and then the other ones will just duplicate, obviously. But the fun part begins, which is trying to figure out, how does my 2D really translate, or how does my 3D really translate into 3D? And we'll see how much we can kind of try to play with exaggerating a lot of these shapes that we came up with last week. Got some webbing going on. We'll have to figure out where the eyes. And again, a lot of it too is, if you remember correctly, it's going to be an isometric, which means it really needs to look good from a view that kind of looks like this. So trying to figure out, how are the eyes going to read from that far and things like that. You don't have to stay in this view to sculpt the whole thing, but it's good to always come back to this view and look at what's going to work and what's not. Just because overall, that's going to be the view that you see him in most, right? So if he needs to emote or say anything or anything, you want to make sure that the eyes are very prevalent. Doesn't mean that you need to completely break the sculpt in order to match, that perspective. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely games that have kind of broken their models in the past for isometric games. If you look at something like Hades. Hades is an awesome, wonderful, beautiful game. And if you look up their models, they're actually really kind of funny looking, just because they're modeled to look good from that one very specific angle, right? So again, you can always break kind of immersion or break your character. And I'll go ahead and drag this down. And this is, if you've been on my stream before, you know this is what I always do, is I'll just ruin it. And then I can get a... We'll go ahead and auto group it. And that'll make sure that I can keep these parts separate. While kind of blocking out the character. Do you always start with a Dynamesh? Says Octavio. I usually do. There's some instances where I don't. If it's something that's a little more hard surface, I will tend to lean on the side of just kind of doing some low poly, like primitive modeling to start. Just because, you know, if you're trying to like get a cone shape, for example, or if your character is very like barrel shaped or cylindrical or like a sphere or something like that, why try to like sculpt or Dynamesh that kind of blob, right? When you already have the primitive there. So for me, most of the time, yeah, I don't usually. His little thing can turn into arms. But yeah, I find it easier to just kind of start with a Dynamesh and not worry about topology. And the biggest reasoning, obviously, is because I'm really just trying to focus on shape. This thing is too small right now, so I'm going to lower it down. If you're having trouble getting your Dynamesh to be really nice and low so you can work with it, it's because it's scaled too big. So we'll go ahead and pull that down. And again, I'm also super messy when I first start out, right? Like, this is really messy, but all I have to do is just inflate it and re-Dynamesh it, and then I smooth it out, and now I have something back again, right? So I'm not afraid to. I think the more I can treat it like actual clay, where I feel like I'm putting clay on or taking clay off, I usually feel better about the process. So that's why Dynamesh is super helpful for starting. And then this, I'm not going to worry too much about the tail. I just want to get the overall like body shape more than anything else. Octavia says, when you make an organic asset for video games, do you make the low poly in ZBrush too? Yeah, I actually will be making it in ZBrush as well. So you'll see that process. So for those of you who are usually used to this stream, usually I don't really move outside of ZBrush. I tend to just sculpt the character and then move on. But because this is my personal project for a game, I thought it would be fun to go ahead and take this guy, and I'll do the low poly, and I'll do like UVing and stuff outside of the stream because it's just not overly exciting, unless one of you are like demanding to watch me do UVs. In that case, then maybe I will. But yeah, I'm gonna actually take him, I'll UV him, and then we're gonna jump into the following week, which will probably be just next week. We'll go ahead and jump into painting him. So I'll bring him into Substance Painter and we'll paint him up and whatnot. And then if I have time, I can open up Unreal and throw him in there and take a look at what he looks like in Engine and stuff like that. So that's kind of the plan with this character. It is super, yeah. Pretty fun. He's very wide, so we're gonna widen him up. And And what I'll also do is I'm going to duplicate and I will grab the head. And I'll, whoops. I'll move it over. Right, just so we can get an idea of maybe one head's a little smaller than the other, or the other ones are a little smaller. Right, so it's gonna eventually look kind of something like that. But I don't have to, you know, do too much on the head. I just need to make sure that its body's gonna be wide enough. And then he's got his little fingers, so I'll go ahead and grab this, Dynamesh that, and then I can grab these guys. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate it. Model out a little finger here. And I liked in my concept, I have these like really flat, kind of like squished out fingers, which are fun. And then we'll put a little claw on it. But it's important for a block out just to get all the pieces in first, you know? So if I look at something like that, oops, go. You know, it's good to just block that in and say, okay, was it too big? Is it too small? Is it this? Is it that? And try to get something in there. So for example, his palm is like really tiny. So maybe I'll take that and make it a little bigger. And then I think maybe these are looking too frog, right? So now I can pull these in a bit more. Maybe there's not an interesting arc. Maybe it's overall too big, right? So I can go ahead and smooth that out and I can make it a little smaller. I'm turning off my heater, I'm freezing. Right, so now I can see, is that too big, too small? And then I can also make sure I'm looking at it from isometric and saying, you know, does that work or does it not work? Probably make them a little bigger. I think by default they were too big, but okay, something like that. And then I could just grab maybe this part here. And now here's the wing, right? I'm trying to figure out, you know, kind of the size. I think something like that could be kind of cool. I had it initially where the wing was going in because a lot of the reference I think is like these thick-bodied wings. So I think I'll probably still do that actually. There we go. And then I can choose how, you know, thick or thin these are. I'll probably keep them fairly thick because, again, we're looking at this from isometric. So we're looking at it from kind of like here. And that's the other thing too, is when and I don't have to decide this right now, but if I look at this right now, you know, does it read better when it's more outward like this? Right? Because from an isometric view, this view might not be the most interesting view because you can't really read the silhouette. So this is where I kind of talk about, like, you can break sort of the model itself, and you're like, does that make really a lot of sense for wings to face that direction? No, but they're not really useful wings anyway, on top of that. But also, if we're looking at our character from this view, this is going to be the easiest read, right? That you go, hey, that's a wing. So I think that actually kind of trumps over any sort of other logic that you want to bring to it. So now I can kind of adjust it to more of that angle, right? Octavio's asking what headset am I using. It's the Sony WX some crazy number. I think our host Ninja will share it in the chat. Yeah, but it's the Sony WH something or other, some crazy numbers. They're very comfy. I do like them a lot. My only complaint about them is you can have 2 devices hooked to them. So when I'm on my computer, I get phone calls, which is fine. But because of that, the settings on the phone somehow reset always to speak to chat for some reason. So sometimes when I start talking, it'll think that I'm trying to hear myself, and I don't like speak to chat. It drives me crazy. But other than that, it's fine. These are great headphones. No complaints. Thank you, Ninja. And then I also have some webbing on the arms as well. I'm wondering, I feel like he needs to support himself better. He felt like he was being a little too flat. And then he'll try to see where the bottom of that lines up. It feels a little stronger if he can, like, hold himself up. Like, it was feeling like he felt like a little lazy or something going on there. So I'm trying to. Also, I felt like the shape just wasn't interesting when we're looking at the shape. His body needs to definitely be a lot wider too. And it will eventually be, you know, very long. So he'll be kind of like that. But his tail's always going to be like curling and doing fun stuff, so. And I think I want to give him really beefy forearms and then kind of thin out the wrist here. So I'm trying to find a shape language that's kind of interesting. And, you know, this would actually do that. And then I'll grab it. And again, from isometric, is it gonna read? Right, because I don't really care actually if the front reads super well. This is what I really end up wanting to care about. And then he has ears along with like webbing, so and I'm just trying to find the overall shape of it first. Because then I think the thing I'll have to do is thin out the ears. That's what I had a feeling about. So then I can make these ears thinner and maybe make them stand up more. Right? That's feeling better. Gordon, hello. You can disable the Sony. Yeah, I know I can disable the speak to chat, but what the thing is that I always go to disable it, and then it always turns back on. So it doesn't like save the setting when I accidentally disconnect the headphones from my phone. Maybe mine's just faulty, but it always turns back on. It's very annoying. But other than that, I really like the headphones. It's a very minor complaint, so. Up the resolution a little bit. Oops. So I can I'll refine just this part here, because I think it's kind of hard to read what's going on here. And I'll probably just, again, try to make this all kind of like one mesh. Oh, my goodness. I like this like pointy beak kind of. I think I have one on my reference. It's more like, it's pretty exaggerated, so I think that'd be fun. And see, now I think I need to give him more of a jaw. I don't think there was enough room. Because I really want to make sure he has a very protruded cheekbone. And then I'm turning back on my heater. And then I'll grab the spear. See how that reads from 3/4. That's pretty good. It's like very exaggerated brows are kind of fun. Our game's very fun and like whimsical, so these characters also do not have to look like super evil. All the characters are supposed to be pretty fun. I think I'll exaggerate. There we go. I'm gonna really push the shapes more on that. James is saying how I thought about the dragon's attack patterns. So our game is more of a interactive kind of like point and click. So it'll actually be more like actual D&D. So it's going to be stat based. So it's not that the character can't attack you, or move, but the animation actually in the game is going to be more limited than like an isometric like roguelike or something. And that's just purely because I am one person. So I can only do so much in a game. But also we thought it'd be fun to tell something more fun and whimsical and narrative and almost make something that feels like a whimsical like D&D game that has a nice, story and everything to it. So it's really more about like the choices you make depending on how you get to this dragon or the NPCs that you run into and things like that. So I think that's working. Hades' favorite weapon. Ooh. I was a really big fan of I always call them the fisticuffs, but it's the gloves. I don't remember what they're really called, but the gauntlets were super fun. I really liked the gauntlets. I actually really liked, which one? Was it King Arthur's sword? That's the special sword that you get. It's slow, but it's so strong. I remember when I first unlocked it, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to like beat it on the first run, but the first run I played with the Arthur sword, I got all the way through, and I was like, yeah, this thing's awesome, because you just put like a little ring of protection or whatever. I don't exactly remember how it works, but that one's super fun. Right. So I think I'll sculpt the hands a little more. But after that, I think I'll just start to try to like make a low poly and kind of retop and work on stuff. Because also the whole point of this style is basically so me, because it's just me making these characters. The real point of it is that I should be able to get them done within like a day or two. Is also kind of the goal of the character designs, is that they're supposed to be fairly simple. Because if I make them too complicated, I'm never going to finish, right? Making the characters. It's going to be too much of a task. Oops, what's happening? My smooth broke. Yay. I don't know why that happens. Needs more of a palm. Go. So it feels like his palm is like squishing up against the floor. Could do something too where maybe his fingers are slightly I don't know, I want to feel like there's like a lot of pressure on his fingers, so I think this might actually help. Yeah, because I think them being flat was like kind of boring. And it's things like this that I don't actually, I mean, I should think about it more when I'm doing the 2D, but I actually think about this type of stuff way more once I get into the 3D design, when I look at like the weight of something. Because my 2D drawing is just like hands are flat. But looking at it from, 3D, I was like, it's not, I'm not really feeling that, right? It just doesn't feel quite right. So I think this works a lot better. There we go. So I'm gonna hide these guys for now, and I'll go ahead and I'll kind of start to retop or start to figure out shapes of stuff. So, and I could probably I probably don't need to merge all this stuff down. I could actually probably keep it like separate meshes, just because the animation is going to be so minimal on stuff. He'll like move and everything, but I'm not, not going crazy. Let's go ahead and do that. So each piece I'll kind of, sparse out and make sure that it feels right. And I think those feel pretty good now, so I can split those, and then I'll probably keep, depending if I want this whole thing to be one shape, like his whole head. Or if I want to keep this separate and be able to like kind of move it around separately. I think that might work better, because then I could make them like sad, or I could pull them up and not have to worry about like messing with the face. And then I also need to still split the jaw, so I'll go ahead and split that too. And then I'll open up the mouth before I retop the mouth. So, more. So you don't need anything crazy. So I think that's probably good. And now what I can do is just start kind of working my way around retopping some stuff. Yeah, with his mouth opening, he's actually pretty adorable. So when I'm working on, when I'm doing like low poly stuff, this is about as far as I go with the retop, just because again, it's not super relevant for it to be like really crazy detailed or anything like that. So the biggest thing is finding those key shapes that I know that's gonna make up the whole character. And I retop. I try to retop really quickly. But if you don't know what retopping is basically taking the sculpt that you did and putting nicer geometry on top. And I go pretty fast because I know a lot of this I can always edit later. But I'm also very focused on just that low poly. That initial low poly is what's going to make up this character. And I can move this stuff and shift it around later, but you guys have never seen a retop of a character. It's kind of what it looks like. And you can think about like the scales that you might be putting in and stuff like that. I also kind of keep that stuff in mind as well. Oops. Give him some goggles. And this part's always going to be the boring part. Like doing stuff like this isn't necessarily usually super fun, but the end result's always like really rewarding. At least I find, because I really like doing like low poly clean meshes. And I won't bother filling in like the mouth and things because I can always bridge and pull that back later or do other things. It's really just about getting this basic shape first. And it's all about edge flow. And when I talk about edge flow is basically, I'm trying to make edges that wrap, around the mouth or around the cheekbone. So that way when I have this like very low poly version, it'll be easier to move those shapes around and do stuff like that. And this thing is either too hot or too cold. Such a whiner. And something like the nose, because it's so far away, I know that later I'm probably just gonna paint it. I'm not even gonna like try to make, I'm not gonna try to model a nose. I'm just gonna be like, paint that later. And it's fine. So there's a lot of little things like that you can do too. It just all depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? And that's the most important part, is figuring out, what is your goal with your characters when you're making them, and what are they for? If they're for low poly and I'm going to see them this far away, for example, right? Like that's giving me all the information that I would need. I'm also going to save, because obviously I'm so bad at doing that. And ZBrush loves to crash on retopping, just because you push a button wrong or something. And then I'll try to loop this around, so this will, right? So that way when I grab the mouth, it'll be all nice one loop. He looks like a flamingo. Reminds me of the flamingos from is it Alice in Wonderland? The one that they play golf with. They've got those like really crazy beak shapes. That's what it's reminding me of. Yeah, retopping is definitely part of the game, and it's just really a matter of figuring out, put on a show, you can talk to people in a chat, for example, keep yourself busy. It's not the most exciting part, but there is something kind of very like zen about it. I think part of it's just because it feels like it's like a puzzle piece that you're putting together, And that helps me think it's not so boring. There. So now that I have that, I can go ahead and make that. And then it will pop up at the top, and now I can hide this, and add this guy. And there's my little mesh. And then again, I can just like bridge the mouth and stuff, which is normally what I do, or for the eyes. It's easier to go in here with like a Z modeler and just kind of start hard surface modeling. So I'll make some eye sockets. I can also extrude out to start making where the neck will go. And then I can basically just extrude the neck down and make a neck really fast. But instead of, going and retopping all this, I just like to bridge it because it's easier. rather than trying to like, retopping can be like in the mouth and stuff. It gets really crazy because you have to avoid all the other plate spaces and geometry and things like that. So it's just easier to do this. At least I find it easier. And maybe you can call me crazy for retopping in ZBrush, but I kind of just like to stay in one program if I can. I say that as this thing will not let Bridget. Yeah, I always like to stay in one program if I can, just because I feel like that's going to be easier than, exporting it out and bringing it in and doing blah, and all that jazz. I'm just like, keep it simple. Right, and now that I have something like that, you can always go inset. You can say polygroup all. Not that bad one. Don't do equidistant, do legacy. Legacy works a lot better. There we go. And then I can extrude down. And now I have a little mouth. And if you want to, like, slide that to kind of even the edge around or whatever, you can. And now I can move this down if I want. And there's a pretty clean looking mouth. So that's kind of like a little retopping process. And for something, again, that's this far away, that'll look great. And once we paint them up and do everything, it'll be awesome. So now what I'll do as well is I'll grab the end of this. Flatten that out. And now we can just extrude this guy. So what I like to do is it looks really horrible at first, but I'll extrude it once, and then I'll just pull it all the way down to where I need it to go. So I'll put it all the way here, which I know by default it's going to look really weird, but that's fine. So that looks horrible, right? But I can just slice curve this. I'll grab this guy. Oops. And I just start putting in geometry. Kind of one thing at a time. Oops, going the wrong direction with that one. And then once I get something like that, you can always you can bevel it to kind of even out. Because beveling will average. And then when you have like kind of messy stuff or whatever, I can mask this guy. And then I can kind of slide these edge loops around. Oops. Apparently it did not stay symmetrical for some reason. Oh, maybe because I turned off symmetry. Maybe that's why. That would make sense, wouldn't it? I like the music today. The music today is very chill. That's so weird. Why is that happening? I must keep turning off symmetry and not knowing it. Cool. And then what I can do is I'll take, this guy and I can just duplicate it and then I'll stitch it to the body. No symmetry. Oh, it's because local symmetry is on. I'm so dumb. Did anybody say that in the comments? No. Come on, guys. You're supposed to help me out here. How dare you? Just leaving me stranded. Why is this not? Oh, local symmetry. Can be great, but it's also can be very detrimental when you're trying to work on stuff like this. Because if something's slightly off or uneven, then it will be symmetrical. Yeah, barely off. There we go. It'll just barely be off, and it's very annoying, but we've got it. I think we've got it now. Just gonna make sure it stays off. As you can see, oh, symmetry, why are you like this? As you can see why I tend to kind of just get something quick in there, and then I'll leave the rest to, blocking out in the low poly. Just because as you work, you'll realize there's stuff that you gotta change or edit or adjust. I'm not trying to match it perfectly, I'm just trying to get the basic idea here. There you go. Rawr. And he's got little eyeballs in there. And then once you have stuff like this, it's really easy to take, like your face, for example, and I can duplicate it, and then I can grab this guy, hide that, delete hidden, can make it smaller and kind of narrow it out. I could even delete this here. Actually, I'll even delete this guy. And then what I'll do is extrude that and give him like a little forked tongue. And then now I can extrude all that up. But yeah, I like starting super low, because if you start low enough, what I like is usually you can take what you've already done and you can turn it into something else. And you guys have probably seen me do that plenty of times on, the stream. But, if you make something and you like it and it looks good, there's no reason to not keep using it. And now he's got a tongue. And now we can do the same to the ears. So I can just delete that. And the only reason I'm not starting from like a, you could poly model this, but I find sometimes it's easier to figure out the shapes that you want, or like to make sure that the shapes look good. So I can make sure that there's this, like this webbing, for example. I feel like retopping makes my brain hurt less than trying to actually, model this out. Because this is just a lot of, like, if I really like this shape, I really just want to make sure that whatever the low poly is going to be will mimic and have enough topology to support what I want. And I'll only do one side, so I almost always will add thickness after the fact. And there's a big edge here. If you think of low poly modeling as, a way to, allow your forms to be forms, then kind of like a low form of sculpting. You still want to treat it like as if you're sculpting. Just gotta kind of rewire your brain to think about it that way. Right? So you have that. Just make it. And then we'll go back into this guy, turn these guys off. Pop that in. James says, my only gripe with the retop tools in ZBrush is the ability to scale the faces to the same size. Oh, yeah. That's definitely true. I think I tend to just draw really, really big. And also, for something like this, I'm more thinking about the shape of the thing more than that's weird. Is that weird? Am I crazy? Why is that doing? Yeah, that is weird. I'm gonna delete this one. But yeah, you can't make them all the same size, but in low poly modeling, I'm always trying to make sure that it's more following the form of something. More than, perfect deformation or anything like that. Don't take this for, like, this is how you model everything. This is how you model low poly stuff. And even then, there's so many ways to skin this cat, but Octavia says, I think it's better doing it in ZBrush because if you import the model from 3ds Max or another one, you are limited to the general shape up to the model. Yeah, because of bakes, right? Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the way I also model, you know, hard surface things or anything like that, I also will tend to use my low poly as my high poly as well. And now we can just cap this little guy off. Because I like using, and you guys have probably seen me use it before on the stream, but I like using the, you know, poly group increasing kind of method where lower resolution. There we go. Okay. But yeah, I like to crease and do all that stuff. And it's kind of like what Octavia was saying is I find it's way easier to I could probably turn that into a wing. And it wouldn't be that crazy. It'd actually be kind of adorable if his ears and his wings were kind of the same shape. But, go. Now we're getting somewhere. But yeah, when you use the low poly and like creasing method, what I like about that is your low poly and your high poly will match perfectly. So when it comes to baking, it actually makes it so easy. Ooh. I just remembered I don't know if I should do it now. I might regret doing it now, but I could add some scales by using, I like this Q mesh extrude, is really cool. But I wanted to work on will it not work on a partial? It doesn't look like it wants to. It doesn't want to do it. There's another way to do it. I was just hoping the Q mesh edge thing would work. I'm surprised it actually doesn't, because there's tons of things that won't, like beveling, for example. Like if I bevel this, you'll see that it actually will stop right there, which is really useful. So I can go ahead and bevel all these like this. And then I can make little scales. I was hoping the edge extrude thing would do that for me, but ended up not doing that. But it's a useful tool. But low poly is kind of fun because, again, it's like sculpting, but it's like every little vert move matters, which I think is kind of fun and interesting. You know, if I move this vert out or I push it in, like it totally changes the shape of his scales. And I don't know, there's something kind of relaxing and fun about this kind of modeling. right? And that comes together really fast. So then, now when I take this guy and put him into, you know, substance and whatnot, I have like a cool edge to be able to kind of do edge highlights and stuff from, which is really fun. I might make his jaw like a little. So yeah, the super, and you can see the silhouette. Even that little bit of bump actually makes and changes the silhouette a little bit, which I think adds a lot to the low poly detailing. And from here it looks cool. So now I'm gonna try to find, where'd it go? This guy. Octave says, love that shape. Awesome. I like it too. I think it's come together. I'm just using the same Z-sphere over and over again, so I'm just grabbing that Z-sphere and I'm just deleting it and then saying delete, and then I'll just retop it. Okay, Satos is looking great. Thanks, guys. I'm excited to paint it. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Now I do think I really like this like bulbous shape, so I definitely want to make sure that I figure out how to keep that in there. What I might do is model, that might work. I'll close it off and cap it off with like a circle. We'll see if that works. We'll see. I always try to get the outline first of like the important shapes, so I know like, you know, this shape's an important shape. And it needs to have a supporting edge to make sure that I can get that roundness. Whereas here I don't mind this kind of actually just like triangulating or something. Did I save already? I saved earlier. I'm gonna save again though. Thank you, Pixado. Retopping's fun, but you never want to do it again. No one wants to do this again. I think I just don't like redoing things more than anything else. It's not even that the work is technically like hard, it's just I don't like the feeling of completing something and then having to redo that. It's very annoying. So I'm just gonna end these almost like little webs. And I think that'll make the topology a lot easier to follow in like Paint. Because then also in Substance Painter, if you kind of like model it like this, then when you paint it, you can just select these faces and paint them, you know, red or whatever, and it'll be really clean because it's following the polygons. So it's almost like painting by like numbers at that point. You get what I mean. So you can just say fill this face and make it red, and fill that face and make it this, and makes it a lot easier later. Oops. But when you guys, I hope when you see this, like, I don't know, I feel like people think that retopping should take like a long time. And yeah, I mean, depending on what you're doing, I could just turn these into the wings. That's what I'll do. I'll make sure I give it enough topology to do that. You know, retopping does take a long time depending on what you're doing, but I think, you know, you don't have to draw every single little square. It just drives you crazy. You know, get the idea in there. It's the same as almost like blocking out a sculpt or something. Like, get the main shape, and then you can figure out, you know, then you can like move stuff around, figure out, oh, you know, do I need to add more here? And you can do that while you're retopping, or you can just insert an edge loop later. Your topology is, if you're following along and making good topology, there's no reason you can't add more geometry later to something. Go. See, that's cleaner. And then once I have something like that, I'm good. Because I try to retop as little as possible, and then I'll model kind of the rest of it, just like I did with the ears. Separate. There we go. But if I'm good about, you know, how I model this stuff, then I can definitely reuse this asset to make the wings, which will be good. So we'll go ahead and make those. Bring in those wings. And then the biggest thing is don't get confused. So I'm going to extrude. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete where I know there's holes. I'm just going to get rid of the other side right now because it's just distracting. But I know I want, you know, there to be a little nub in there, a little nub in there, and one there. And you can even kind of start sculpting these outward. Right, so I'm actually using the clay buildup brush to build out the volume on the back because it's so low poly. Right, so now I have something thin on the edge here, and then it gets thicker. And if I wanted to, I could, because I know that I sculpted, or I put topology right where I put the wings, or like the webbing, right? So now if I inset that, I can actually have more topology to make sure that I move this down. Right, and if I want to, I don't technically need this topology for that. I could just cut it or stitch it or something. So I could go in here and boop. Right, and have topology only where I need it in order to give depth to the wings. Which again, I can just mask it, move it down. I treat a lot of low poly stuff like as if I'm sculpting. It's more fun that way, you know? And then again, I'll do the same thing that I did with the other one where I inserted an edge loop to give it kind of a roundness. And then you can just, you know, inflate this edge a little bit. to give it some thickness. And if there's anything that's like kind of unwavering like this, you can always slide the edge loop kind of like back and forth. And that'll kind of round out anything being kind of weird. So now we have kind of something like that. And then for these last ones, I can just close the hole. And I could put edge loops in there now, or what I could do is make a point, kind of like that. So I'll do that to each one. And then I can do the insert edge loop, and then I can kind of make a little like rounded. Right. I hope this is kind of interesting or semi-fun to watch. I don't know. I haven't really done stuff like this before on the stream. And now you can see that I modeled it so that way it could fit and make wings as well. So now I can just modify it to fit kind of in there. But we'll go ahead and duplicate it, and I'll find my body. Now we don't need these guys anymore. Right, and I don't mind reusing the shape because it's actually, you know, it makes him feel like he has a more consistent shape language. Now he's got little wings. And he's got his little frills, right? And then if I needed to, I can always, you know, I can choose to inflate this end, maybe, make this a little bigger. I could kind of smooth this out or move this. So I can adjust the shape ever so slightly, you know. I can maybe, whoops, inflate the mid-joint here to go. I was smart this time and put my hot chocolate in a mug that could stay warm, and it's so nice. I usually put it in a little cup and it gets too cold, and then I'm just basically drinking chocolate milk by the end of it. Ooh, and I can also take it and there's no reason, well, maybe not this one. I'll actually take the original. And we can make it his little webbing on his arm as well. You killed a lot of birds with that stone. Very useful. Or should it go this way? Yeah, that's better. Cool. And then all I really have to retop is kind of like this upper half, because then the rest is just going to be the same thing as the neck. I'm just going to, just extend it out into one long cylinder. But before you do that, I can take all the parts that make his head. And then what I can say is merge visible, and then it'll populate over here. And then I should be able to merge down his ears. And that, his things flip, but that's okay. Oops. I'm going to just say merge down. There we go. Flip it. Oh, the morph target. You'll run into that when you do retopping. It'll make a morph target and you can't flip it, so just delete the morph target, bring it back, and there it is. And then I'll bring in that merged one. No. That one's flipped, so I guess I'll just duplicate it. And then we can make different expressions and faces and stuff, which will be fun. So go ahead and hide that guy. Bring this down to the base and move him over. And again, it's a matter of figuring out, is his head going to be slightly smaller? I think I like the small, so that way they're not all the same. It kind of feels like a nice arc. If their head is slightly smaller. Kuya! Hello, my peach friend. How's it going? Glad you can join. Good hierarchy between the three. Yeah, I think so. I think that'll work. So now I'm just going to move this kind of into place and try to find a spot. Where did I have it sitting last time? Oh, I put it more close. I think that will actually work too. Because I want to make sure that there's room for the shoulder, so... But I also want to make sure I can stitch these two together. I'm done. Doing fantastic. How am I? I'm good. I am good. Can't complain, we're making dragons. Am I right? There's no complaining when you're just making dragons. Yeah, so I think that works. Should put all these dynamishes into a folder. So that way they can stay out of my way. Yeah, we are retopping, sort of retopping. We're low poly modeling and retopping a dragon for my personal project. It's a little game that I'm working on. So come on in and enjoy the fun. Just trying to get the scales and the thing to feel right. And then I'll have to move the head around too. Because rigging out's gonna be so fun. Kuya, can I have all your peach emojis for the stream? Am I allowed to just steal those away from you? That would be great. There we go. That'll be easier to rig. At least I can select the vertices. They would really hate me if I didn't do that. And now I don't need that neck anymore. It is time to make some Ashley emotes. What do you think would be a good emote for me? I think you should. Oh my gosh, we need a lot of dinosaurs. That's for sure. Some dinosaur eggs for the Stegon eggs. Okay. I think that would work real well. Now I'm gonna merge these down. Boom. And then I'm gonna stitch these together. Cute dinosaur? Yeah. Stegosaurus, right? Should make some Stegosaurus emojis. I need to spend some time. Maybe I'll do it all in the stream. Just stream me making emojis for the stream. Or is that just too... Is that just too meta? I don't know. Okay, bring in my 3-headed guy. So I'm bringing it into a different scene so that way I can grab it from the Z-sphere. And then I'm gonna retop on the dino here. Yes, write that down. Okay, writing it down. Whew, that is hard to look at when it does that, but you know. I'm gonna save this right now. Oops. I'm gonna save this as O2 because I saved over a lot of stuff. Oops. Yeah, I really should get some dinosaurs up in here doing drawings or just being cute, you know, just being cute dinosaurs. Everyone knows that if you get me a dinosaur or a shark present for Christmas, I will love you forever. That's just how that works. Because why shouldn't it work that way? I mean, obviously. Dinosaurs and sharks make the best Christmas gifts. By like a long shot. Okay. Oh, it gets so tiny in there. Nope, that didn't work. There we go. I also need a coffee emoji. I'm trying to think of things that are very much me. I'm like, yes, add that to the emoji list. And coffee is a pretty easy one. Although the stream is so late, I very rarely try to drink coffee while I'm on here, but, you know, sometimes I'll just be like, you know, I got a little coffee left over from the day. It's coffee time. Just making sure there's a loop around this arm, because it'll be easier to animate. There we go. I know you guys love watching me draw squares. I know it's so fun. Oh my gosh. This is like the coolest thing I've done on stream for such a long time. Don't be jealous of my mad square skills, alright? They be real. That's sip. Oh, the sip emoji? That's adorable. I love that idea. Heck yeah. Oh, there's a puppy next to me. She might jump up. Because she loves to bother me and say hello. Oh, I think she laid down. You guys almost got to see a puppy again. There we go. Almost done. Because remember, I'm just going to extrude this back and that's just going to be the tail, so, you know. Boom. Can make a super deformed version of myself and then rig it. Like giant headphones. My headphones are already ginormous. I should just do really tiny Ashley head in headphones. Like peeking over the chat. I think that would work pretty well. You gotta write down these ideas for me and send them to me, because I won't remember them. I have too bad of a memory for these things. Boop. Alright. Boop. Bam. Bam. Dragon head. And now he's got a little body, some shoulders. See? He comes along so fast. I really wish I could keep my polygroups from this one though, but it's just the way it goes. Big headphones. The big headphones idea is a good idea. Okay, I'll have to do it now that everyone's like, yeah. And by everyone, I mean like 2 people, but you know, you guys are the only opinions that matter. Look, Okaise has been here almost every time. He's my OG fan. My OG follower. I appreciate, and he also helped me save every time. They're there. The save master. Right, now we can just same thing. There we go. I'm so excited to paint him. It'll be so much fun to paint. Oops, I guess that was right. I mean, I also kept meaning to take all the characters that I've sculpted and then turn them all into emojis as well. So I thought that would be fun. I really don't know how long to make his tail yet. It's so hard to tell how long is too long, but you know. think. How long are we? Oh, I almost nailed it. Nailed it. I'll probably need much more topology than this later, but if he's gonna, you know, curl his tail around a bunch, his tail is actually gonna have like the most topology because I want it to curl and move around a bunch. At least that's my initial idea. I can make a line. I can make a lineup with all the characters I've made. Yeah. I am trying to make you blush. That's my job. You've been the best. I can almost always rely on Okai Sato coming in and saying hello. And it makes me so happy. As long as he's here, I will always be here, sculpting away. Unless it's holidays, then, you know, we both disappear. Is that sliding? What is that doing? Whoa, it's doing some funky stuff. Just trying to round out his tail a bit more. Forgot that always messes up the... Do that before you add, you know, the thing at the end. There we go. I'll have to adjust the topology later, but... It says you watch, loves the series and watch them while working. That's awesome. That's the whole point. I mean, the whole point is I'm hoping that, you know, everyone kind of follows along with me and works on their own stuff or is inspired to work on their own stuff. You know, that's kind of the goal. And if someone's working on their stuff, you know, if you're working on something that you want to share, something creative, like, please tag me and share it with me. Or if, you know, if you don't want to share it public, you can always message me and be like, hey, I watched your thing and, you know, I made this thing. And that always makes me super happy. I mean, I love to share art. That's why I'm out here streaming art for you guys, you know? No one's like pinning me to the wall to do this. No one's forcing me to do this. I just like to do it. So I just care about making art and making it fun. Thank you, Kuka. And now I'm just modeling. You can see I'm just extruding the arm out, and I'll be making a little poly arm. And I can always probably squeeze it more after the fact, or I can move it around. So I'm just trying to get the hole in the right area. I find this usually, it seems kind of like more of a pain in the butt, but I hate counting, because then, you know, if I need to attach this arm to something, I hate counting. Ooh, hold on, where did the tail come back here? I hate counting how many, you know, how much topology. Is it 4-sided? Is it 16? Is it 8? Is it this? Is it that? I'm like, oh, it's so annoying for me. So I just like doing stuff like this. Oh, come on. Go small. Yeah, and this will just be a basic little... You can see why the Dynamesh doesn't really matter. Because ultimately it's just about getting the proportions more than anything else, and then finally, you know, adjusting everything to match that. And then again, if something, you know, I can just bevel it until it has like the nice curvature that I'm like looking for. So if I really exaggerate like the bevel here, for example, or the insert, I can always bevel it and it'll kind of even itself out, and then I can always use like a edge slide to kind of average it back out. The biggest thing about that, though, is making sure I'm not messing up my necks or whatever. It looks like I didn't, but, you know, watch out for stuff like that. Oops. Just trying to make sure I have some even spacing. I keep insetting instead of sliding. That's always fun. That's a good time. And from that view, he's looking pretty. Because remember, it's going to be isometric. I'm in the game industry. That's why I watch Gnomon channel, and because you bring us really good content. Oh, I appreciate that, Octavio. Cool to know that you're a fellow gamer and game in person's thing in the industries. Nailed it. You game good. So smart, guys. This is why, thank goodness I do art for a living. No one else. You don't want me doing anything else. Don't put me in charge of anything else except art. Are you a fellow character artist in the industry? What was that, Ashley? Oh, I know let's do. He just has little nubbins, like he's no fingers. For sure, you'll share it. Good. I'm glad you'll share it. Art is all about sharing. well, not all about sharing, but I think it is. I love sharing art because I just hope it means someone else will be inspired to make something. Because I think there's something so powerful about creating, you know, whether it's art or whether it's, you know, pottery or building Gundams or, you know, making a puzzle. Like, it's just something about creating that I think is like a natural state of being human that I think is personally very cool. And I highly encourage everyone to do it. Get out there and go create stuff. You know, go make cool stuff. That's what it's all about. Doesn't matter if you feel like you're good or bad. I think the feeling of just making something is a good feeling. Remember, this guy really isn't meant to be like hit to smooth, but you can kind of see what it will kind of look like. It'll be eventually just a smooth, normal, like low poly thing. Which, speaking of, I'll show you. I'll bring in the little character here because we're almost on time. So this is another little character that I made for the game. So as you can see, it's very low poly, going super, super low poly with it. But I wanted to show this guy, mainly just be like, ta-da, another character, but also I want to bring him in to our scene so we can make sure that this guy's scaled properly. Because I doubt right now that he is. So let's see. Where are you? Where are you, Quilted Knight? Yeah, he's very tiny, as you can see. Octavia says, I'm an environment artist, but there's a lot of great techniques and characters that you can bring to environment, like making the main shape in ZBrush. And yeah, definitely. That's awesome that you're an environment artist. I'm very jealous. Casey was asking, have I built a Gundam? I have built a Gundam. I love building Gundams. I made an Evangelion one somewhere. He's in my shelf, hiding and running. But I like making Gundams. Gundams are super fun. So I'm gonna unhide everything except I can get rid of this Z-sphere. I don't need that. And then I'm gonna save it real quick. Octavio asked if I made this character during the stream. I did not. This one is one that I made off stream, but there'll be plenty of them that I'll make during the stream. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to zero this guy out, and then this guy I'm masking, so then I can grab everything else in here. And I'm gonna scale it up to size. So I'm picturing this dude pretty big in comparison. Like when you're in the game, you're only gonna see like part of his head. That's kind of how I imagine him. Maybe a little bigger. Yeah, someone maybe big like that. I picture him being pretty big. That's a pretty big dragon in comparison to game characters. So I think that's good for now. But I wanted to get him up to scale. So that way I always like seeing the comparison. And making sure that it feels right. They don't all have tongues. Oh no. Silly old me. There we go. There's the tons. And they all don't have eyeballs yet either. But yeah, I think that's about as big as he'll be, which is probably cool. How do I bring other tools in with the right proportion? So I know for a fact that this character was scaled in. So I used the Unreal character. So I grabbed the Unreal character, I exported that from UE5, and then I took that, brought them into Blender to make sure that the scale was where I wanted it to be, and then I brought him in, and then I modeled the Quilted Knight character here based off of that scale, so I knew the lighting and everything in UE5 would work. Even though it's a very different proportion than the Unreal 5 character, I wanted it to be in the same scale, because a lot of other assets and things are made in that default scale. And so then, now that I know that that character's always scaled to the right size, I can always bring him into scenes and then just scale up other characters based on that. And so I just mask him, and then the rest of the scene, I click this button, which is transpose all selected. It'll move all subtools except for things that are masked. And so now we have a dragon that's scaled to the proper size. So what I'll try to do, you can try to retop, or not retop, but like Z-remesh and see if it works for you. I find for low poly modeling, I think it just looks better when you kind of do it yourself. But I'll try it for the sake of getting the character in there for the stream. We'll see what it looks like. So say keep. I'll actually make sure I'm gonna cut. Oops, I'm gonna cut this off too. Just so everything's nice and straight. And then I'll say Z-remesh. And then I'll have it. The problem that I have is I never like the way it stitches the middle, the fingers. That always drives me kind of crazy. But you can take the fingers and then extrude out and stitch and bridge stuff later. And then the last final touch would be to insert a cylinder here. Or just a cone, that's fine. And then we can use we can actually do the bend arc. There we go. We can curl it. And then I'll just duplicate it around. What if his eyes look like that? They're like weird chicken eyes. Trying to get the one other eyeball. Get in there, man. You can do it. So that's almost done, right? All I'd have to do now is, I think the only thing I'm missing is some of his like spines and add some teeth, which shouldn't be too hard to do. But now you can see that I got most of that. Now I can model some more of the belly and stuff after the fact. But there you go. Our little dragon with, or not so little dragon with our quilted knight. And then once I'm happy with like how characters, I can kind of warp the faces more to kind of give a little more expression or a little bit more personality to each one. But that's kind of the idea. But you can see that the low poly modeling stuff works really well because I modeled this in 2 hours. And now I'm almost done. And then it's just a matter of doing some UVs. And then next week, you guys are free to join me as I have this guy in Substance and ready to paint it. So I'm looking forward to painting it. That'll be a lot of fun. So this is the first time I'll be painting something on the stream. So we'll see how thoughtful and how well put together I am for that. But I think it'll be fine. We'll be good. It'll be lots of fun. So yeah, if you guys want to see me kind of keep working and completing this character, please join in next week. That's correct, right? Yeah, keep joining me next week and even the following week. And I think the week after will be a break. So I'm hoping by the end on December 20th, this character will be finished, and then we'll have our lovely holiday break, and then we'll keep making creatures for the new year. So it'll be really fun. So, all right, you guys, I will peace out. Thank you guys for joining me on Archetype. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.